We begin with continuing coverage tonight. Kori Muhammad sentenced to life in prison without parole, 3 years after killing 4 men, 3 of them free in downtown Fresno. His sentencing was delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic.
CBS 47's Dennis Valera joins us live. Dennis, a lot of drama in the courtroom today.
Definitely, Ken and Catherine. Now, everybody involved in this case, they had their chance to read their statements, not only to the court, but to Muhammad himself. In the end, though, they were denied their opportunity to address the man who killed their loved one. Still, they are happy to be able to move on.
The father of Carl Williams.
We're going to pause.
Before any family or friends of Kori Muhammad's victims could speak, Muhammad warned the judge he'd have outbursts if he was addressed by family members. To avoid conflict, Judge Jonathan Conklin removed him from the courtroom, a frustrating move for the families.
He's a coward. He's an evil coward. That's why he didn't want to hear what we had to say.
But still, they shared their grief, their regrets.
Every time I close my eyes, I could see my son and wish that I could have been there to save him.
And talked about the unspeakable scars the Quadrers left behind.
He said, "Mom, I want to be like Daddy." He then described to me he wanted to, so he could be in heaven with Daddy, a 4-year-old.
Muhammad took his seat again after family members spoke. He made a statement offering condolences before launching into a familiar refrain about reparations, this time bringing politicians into the mix.
So let black people go with our own land and reparations. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell.
It didn't sit well for everyone in the courtroom.
I hope you suffer. When you didn't like how it was going to get the judge.
Muhammad's outburst continued until the judge put a stop to it.
The crime constitutes a hate crime. Let black people go and let reparations.
Telling Muhammad he'll never spend another day outside prison walls and that if change was his motive, he failed.
The only change you have caused is the loss of 4 lives. We're adjourned.
For the families of Carl Williams, Zachary Randalls, and Mark Gassett, this was enough.
I'm glad that it's over so we can just go on, you know, put it behind us and go on.
Now, no one came to speak on behalf of Muhammad's 4th victim, David Jackson. Muhammad has 60 days to appeal his sentence. Live in downtown Fresno, Dennis Valera, CBS 47 Eyewitness News.
All right. Peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. There's a scripture, Ecclesiastes 7:7, that says, "Surely oppression makes a wise man mad." And first, let me say, I do not condone the actions of Mr. Kori Muhammad, the man that you saw in the video, accused of taking the lives, senseless taking the lives of 4 individuals. And so I definitely do not condone any undue taking of lives, especially, you know, if it's not self-defense or if your life is not in danger. But I think that scripture does apply to Mr. Muhammad, not only Mr. Muhammad, but many black people in America. Now, this case is from 2017. I think it happened in April, where initially Mr. Muhammad was at a Motel 6 in Fresno, California. And it was said that he went to visit a girlfriend that was, you know, had got a room at the Motel 6. Now, I've been to some Motel 6s. I've been to a lot of hotel rooms. Now, according to, you know, the report I read, that it was customary, or, you know, it was protocol that if a guest that got a room was inviting another guest, they had to get that guest to come to the front desk and show ID. Now, I've never heard of that in my life. So maybe the rules are different in Fresno. So Mr. Muhammad, Kori Muhammad, was going to visit this chick. And they said that this security guard, again, almost Karen-like, saw him enter the room, and then he went to the room and asked them to come to the office and, I guess go through all that measure. Like I said, I don't know if that was a act of profiling or, just, targeting or harassing. Like I said, I've never heard of that rule. Y'all let me know if y'all heard of that rule in the comments. So in the midst of them walking towards the office, it was said that the girl that he was visiting got in an argument with the security guard. And I can imagine, that she was saying like, yo, what are you talking about? Like, I paid for this room. I can have anybody up in this room I want, whatever the case may be. So it was at that point that they said that Mr. Muhammad stepped in and, he began, pulled out his weapon and fired some shots and hitting the man. And then, he fired some more shots at another security officer and, at the hotel window. And it was said that, the police were called and Kori got away. Somehow he got away. And then they went and arrested the young lady because she didn't want to tell who it was. And, they said she removed some evidence from the scene. So Kori started off, taking the live of, I think that was Carl Williams. You heard his father talk. So he took the live of that man. And, while, when he got away, I think they said he went to a nearby 7-Eleven and climbed on top of the roof. And on top of the roof, he was able to see the police interviewing witnesses. And, he waited till they left. And that was at nighttime. So I guess he spent the night on the roof. He waited till they left. And then, he escaped and went somewhere else. And so they said the next morning or, a few days later, he was identified. Somebody identified some way, whether by the surveillance or they finally got to the girlfriend. He had, he realized that, there was a manhunt for him. And they said he went to a nearby Starbucks and, used the Wi-Fi to see, the news clippings about him, looking for him. And so it was at that point in time that he made a decision. He said, well, if I'm, going to jail for, taking one life, this is according to, the reports. He said this, well, I'm going to take as many white people as I can. Now, he then stopped this gas truck. There was a gas truck. He walked up to it and he noticed a Mexican and a white man in the truck. And he said, well, he didn't want to, unalive the Mexican because, he was a non-white person. So, he let off at the passenger side and hit the other guy, and the other guy took him to the hospital. And, the guy later passed. Now, then he was walking down the street, saw a guy coming out of his house, white guys. They said he fired at him. That guy, he escaped and got into, his house. And then he was walking down the street and then he saw some guys coming out of a Catholic parish, started shooting at them. They started running. Then he followed the slower guy. He caught up with the slower guy, caught him in the parking lot, and then fired upon him, took his life. And, somewhere else, he took another life. That's, that's part of the story. But then he was finally caught. He surrendered to the police, which is amazing because of all the life that he took. I'm surprised that, they didn't automatically take his life, being that he, is a black man. So they took him in and, he was reportedly to scream Allahu Akbar. And they took him in and, he was talking sort of like he was talking in court. Now, family members say that Mr. Muhammad, he was raised in, a regular Baptist church, but he started to drift towards Islam in his teen years. And then, he got out in young adulthood, got in some trouble. He was, convicted of, some D-rug selling. And, some other stuff, and spent some time in prison. A lot of times when you go to prison, you begin to seek knowledge. You begin to try to find yourself, find your position in society. And they said he studied the Nation of Islam, the Moorish Science Temple, and things like that. And a lot of times when you in those institutions, you begin to look at the totality of things as far as what's going on in the world. So evidently, he developed the mindset. He started researching history, and noticed that there is a long-standing history of oppression of America by blacks. So that is a lot of things that dealt or contributed to his ideology and to his getting where he was at. Now, he did do, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and other things like that. So at one point he was declared incompetent to stand trial in his earliest cases, and he was committed to a facility for about 4 months. Then they found him competent to stand trial. That's when he got the 9-year sentence, but it was short to like 7 years. So he had just recently got out in 2016, and his rampage happened in 2017. Now, I don't remember hearing about this. Once again, somebody sent this email, or I ran across it while researching something else. And so in 2007, you see the trial, 2017, where he was caught. The trial happened in 2020, which he was, charged with a lot of crimes. I think they did throw the hate crime in there as well. But again, he, originally pled not guilty, with the reason being insanity. Now, I would assume, I can only I don't know what's in that mind, but, that, does seem insane, mentally ill, or just plain evil. I don't know. They did mention that he was also into voodoo rituals. Actually, that morning before he found out that he was, the suspect, he was going to a store to get some items for a voodoo ritual. So, and me, being, having the faith I have, I've never delved into that, and I don't want to, so I don't know. I know, once again, I know it's real. I know there's, people who practice it, and there's some results. So I don't know what kind of results he was looking for. But so Mr. Muhammad, he, had a lot of different varying beliefs, but just looking at him in that court, taunting the family's victims, once again, I that could be a sign of mental illness. They did not, like they said, two of the psychiatrists said that he did display signs of, not being incompetent. But then there was one who said, nah, he just knows to talk. He knows what to say. He knows what they're looking for. And so the judge in this case finally ruled that he was competent to stand trial. So in order to avoid the the capital punishment, he pled guilty to those things, and originally or consequently received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So pending an appeal, I think he's still in there. And the fact that he talked about reparations and politicians is valid. A lot of people feel that Black people are oppressed in this country, are owed reparations, and that may have contributed to that that anger, that contempt, that hatred that he had for white people. Now, I'm not saying that it is totally right, but I do understand. I use this analogy, like, if you're a kid and you have a brother or a sister, and your parents always treating this sister well, getting her everything she wants, but they treat you like a stepchild, you're probably the human nature is going to develop a contempt or a jealousy or envy or disdain for that brother or sister, right? That's only natural. So I think that sometimes what we see in these situations where he's seen things, experienced things, and I don't know what he's experienced, but I know what I've experienced as a black man in America that has caused me to be somewhat outside of myself. I'm not going to say angry, I'm not going to say mad, I'm not going to say jealous, I'm not going to say any of those things, because once again, I know who I am. But in my younger years, I would just be able to see every bit. I mean, I still see it now, but I've become so numb to it, immune to it, that it doesn't bother me as much. Now I know how to navigate the system of racism that we see in this country. But if you are not strong, like the scripture says, it's written, Ecclesiastes 7:7, surely oppression will make a wise man mad. And I don't think anyone who's watching this video will deny that there has been a lot of oppression, and still is, as we see on the multitude of stories that I covered towards black people in America. So this is, once again, no, I do not condone this. My heart actually goes out to those families, especially once again losing lives in that manner. But as there's a sense of judgment, because as he mentioned, in one of his manifestos, that's what Muhammad is. America's God is going to judge America if he doesn't, if America doesn't treat black people right, give them their reparations, things of that nature. If you read the Bible, God does judge people who do his people wrong. So I don't think that is too far-fetched, but I'm not going to take God's judgment in my hands and go out and do all of these things, because that's once again, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. We can go through all those scriptures, but people say you should take up arms and all of this and all that, but the same people that are saying that are not doing that. And so people, I was doing a video the other day, somebody said, well, you sound weak asking that question, this, that, and the other. I was like, and I'm like Superfly in that movie, Superfly, when the Black Power brothers came to him and was like, yeah, man, you doing this and you doing that, what I mean? You out here doing this. Superfly told him, said, look, man, when you get out there with your guns and ready to start fighting Whitey, I'll be right there on the front lines with you. But until then, get out my face. And I'm paraphrasing, but if you watch that movie Superfly, and he told him as such. So, as far as, war and all that stuff, like, I mean, you have to be realistic. If I'm not a jihadist or some kamikaze Japanese person, or someone who's willing to do what this man did and spend the rest of his life in prison. I'm just not. Now if it came down to it where I defend myself, my family, my loved ones, or something like that, then that's a different story. But just going out haywire, screaming Allahu Akbar, nah, that's not me. What I mean? If that's you, then you do it. But if somebody comes into my territory and I have to defend myself, then I'm about that too. But so this is, I decided to do this because yesterday I think I released a video about two white people who committed just a random H crime against a black youth pastor, and they were charged and convicted. And so it goes both ways. I think they and his defense tried to use the mental health, which a lot of people use and get off, but I guess it doesn't work for us. We always held to nah, you did it, you knew what you was doing. So this is a situation where his actions lined up, I guess, with his beliefs, and he took it upon himself to do what he wanted to do. Now, once again, I'm not denying or confirming that he did have a mental issues. I would prefer that he did and just didn't act that way, because if that's the case, then that's I definitely can't condone that. But I don't know how many of you heard that case. I have not heard about that case, so I decided to share that case. But we definitely have to be careful, because constantly looking at these things, even the situation in Lincoln Heights, where the brothers, the people agitate you like that, and next thing you up in arms, your day is upset, and they've moved on about their business, but then you are the ones who are looked at as a perpetrator of hate. Malcolm, had the speech one time, the hate that hate produced. So if someone is constantly doing something to you, doing something to you, doing something to you, doing something to you out of malice, out of hatred, and then you return that same energy, as Malcolm, as they used to try to say, Malcolm, oh, you're talking hate speech. No, I'm literally returning the same energy that has been given to me over the years. So that's something that we have to be often careful about. And, once again, I don't know what this young brother was into. You can look him up, but, he was into a lot of different things, had a lot of different beliefs. And, he took it to another level, which, I can't condone. I'm just going to say that, and I know more than anybody, what type of oppression and pressure that we are up against, but you have to be careful. And, you have to have a strong faith and in the right thing. And so, that brother went on his faith, and he's spending the rest of his life in prison. So y'all tell me what y'all think, about Mr. Muhammad and his actions in the comments. And always, y'all see my number, 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.